Hey everybody, Captain Lou here with another edition of Tigers Daily here on the Fan Arts Network. Happy Monday, June the 29th, 2026. Hope the start of the week is going good for you. It can't get much worse for the Tigers. After yesterday's performance, blowing a 3-0 lead, losing in extras by the score of 7-5 to the Houston Astros, dropping 3 out of 4 to the Astros at Comerica Park to end the 10-game homestand, which started out 4-0 at 5-5. Rough start, as we mentioned, or rough finish, I should say. A wonderful, an excellent start for Jack Flaherty coming off the IL. 5 innings, 94 pitches, labored a few times, but was able to get out of it. 2 hits, struck out 8, looked like he was in midseason form. First start of his audition, if you ask me, because I think he's got to be on the block now, as with the way they performed this weekend. I think you might want to say the Tigers are now going to turn into sellers, but we'll talk about that at another time. But again, Flaherty was magnificent. The Tigers jumped out to a 2-0 lead. Zach McKinstry with a home run, a 2-run shot. Then in the next inning, McConaughey got on an error off the bat of Riley Green. 3-0 Tigers going into the 6th inning, pitching looking very strong. Holton went into the 6th inning. Tyler Holton looked good. Tigers go into the 7th, get the first 2 out, and then an error off the throw from Kevin McConaughey on the 2-out play. Now, I'm not going to blame McConaughey on this one. This one was on Colt Keith. The throw was just up the line a little bit. Keith didn't stretch like he probably could have. That would have ended the inning. It would have been 3-0 going in, at least into the bottom of the 7th anyways. But on the very next pitch, Reynel Delgado, who has been homerless all year, deposited one deep in there, just over the wall into left field. And just like that, it's 3-2. Then we go into the 8th inning. Kyle Finnegan gives up another blast, this time to Itzhak Paredes, who has been a Tiger killer this weekend. I think he was 6 out of 14 or 7 out of 15 or something ridiculous like that against the Tigers. He tied it up at 3, and that's where we stood until the 10th inning. And then the genius, A.J. Hinch, decided to leave Kenley Jansen in for a 2-inning performance, which he hasn't done since July 3rd of 2025 against when he was a member of the California Angels. And yeah, I know Kenley Jansen only had, I think, 7 or 8 pitches in the 9th inning, mowed him down, looked pretty good, looked very good. But you could tell he didn't have it in the 10th. He wasn't even close. And we all know how it starts in the 10th inning. You've got a runner on second, thanks to the new rule a couple of years ago. Now, I like the rules, that some of the rules that they've implemented, the pitch clock and everything. This is the one that I do not like, and that's with the runner on second to start extra innings. I know why they do it. They want to keep the pace of play going, but boy, did it backfire on the Tigers. As, again, Kenley Jansen had no control. Next thing you know, a 2-run shot. It's 5-3, gives up 2 more runs. It's 7-3, and he still hadn't even gotten an out in the 10th inning. Then he gets an out. He finally gets mercifully pulled. Wagenchuk comes in, mows him down the rest of the way. Detroit made it interesting in the bottom of the 10th. They got a 2-run shot, opposite field shot from Torkelson to make it 7-5. And then they put a couple of runners on, had to go ahead run the winning run at the plate. But Matt Vierling showed his warning track power. It went deep to right, and that was it. As the Astros were playing not to allow any doubles. Final score, 7-5. As we mentioned, the Tigers dropped the 4th game of the weekend set. They go 1-3 against the Astros, 5-5 in the homestand. Things not looking very good. Now, we talked about the mad genius, or at least that's what he thinks he is. A.J. Hinch, again for the 2nd game in a row, got outmanaged. I'm sorry. Number one, you don't put Kenley Jansen in the 10th inning. How many times have we said that? The guy's a 1-run pitcher, or 1-inning pitcher. That's it. Now, again, I know he pitched 8 innings, or he only threw 8 pitches. I get it. But when you haven't pitched a 2-inning outing in almost a year, what makes you think that they're going to do it now? And also, when they took Flaherty off the IL, when they announced he was going to be starting, and they activated him today, they sent Emmanuel DeJesus down back to Toledo. All DeJesus has done has pitched 13 straight scoreless innings for the Tigers. Now, I know you can pin some of this on Scott Harris, but you can't tell me that A.J. Hinch didn't have a hand in on this. And I know the bullpen has pitched fairly well in June, but they haven't lately. And part of that is with DeJesus. He had 2 shutout innings on Friday in that win, in that shutout win over the Astros. But that's not good enough. When you got guys struggling like Will Vest, and when you got a guy that's actually pitching well out of the bullpen right now, and you send him down to the minors, and then couple that with Will Vest yesterday, or Saturday rather, in that 8th inning debacle when he's got a 15 ERA in the 8th inning this year, and he's got a 1.9 in the 9th inning and in extras. I mean, what is this? Just, stubbornness? What really bothers me is I sit and listen to his press conferences. I watch his pressers, and he's all analytics. He's all this and that. He's all numbers. He's all numbers driven. Well, let me give you some numbers right now. The Tigers blew their 22nd lead this year. They only blew 20 all last year. That's 2 in a row they've blown. Saturday and yesterday. They're 24-9 with a lead after the 7th inning. That is the worst in Major League Baseball. They have blown 15 leads in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. That's worse than Major League Baseball. Now, they haven't lost them all, obviously, but they've blown 15 leads. That's on bullpen management right there. That's on putting in guys when you're down 1-0 or 2-1, when you've got the big dogs up and you're doing this platoon stuff with Jahmai Jones and Jake Rogers, who are barely batting 150. That's on A.J. Hinch. I've seen too much of it. He tries to think he outsmarts the managers and he's the smartest man in the room. The A.J. Hinch act is old. The show is old. I'm sorry. It's just the A.J. Hinch watch is on. I predicted at the beginning of the year, if they kept up slow, it could be 4th of July and he could be, the footsteps could be heard. He could get his walking papers, but I don't see that happening. Scott Harris is too much in love with A.J. Hinch. So to me, that puts Scott Harris on the block too. Just over it. Really over it. And I don't know what else can be done. The Tigers are going to be sellers unless a miracle happens. Well, when is that miracle going to start for A.J. Hinch? Is it going to start today? Playing the first of 3 with the Yankees in the Bronx? Casey Mize got bumped back to the start today. And then it's going to be Tariq Skubal on Tuesday and Melton on Wednesday. 3 very good pitchers. Are these going to be showcase games, at least for Skubal? It was an audition game for Flaherty. His stock may have went up. We talked about it the other day, about where he could go if Detroit decides to be sellers, which right now it looks like they should be. And we can thank a lot of that on A.J. Hinch. His decisions throughout the year, the way he platoons, the way he sticks with these guys, waiting for them to come out of their shell. They've had one player come out of their shell this year. Hu-Yu Lee. That's it. You've got Torkelson batting 207. You got McKinstry, even though he got a couple of hits today, still under 200. You insist on bringing in Jahmai Jones. Yeah, I know he's a nice guy. I get it. I saw the post game when he hit the home run. But he's batting 145. You don't even bring guys up from the minors that are hitting 300. Malgeri, he's the only one that you brought up that's done it, that you were willing to bring up. You got guys in Toledo hitting 300, and you're not calling them up. I put some of that on Harris, but I put a lot of that on A.J. Hinch. Then you ask yourself, okay, what are they going to do? Who are they going to get? Maybe a change of pace would be good. Just ask the Phillies with Don Mattingly. A little different message in the locker room. Look at what the Vegas Golden Knights did with John Tortorella. All of a sudden, boom, they went into the final. I'm not saying Detroit's going to win a World Series, but nonetheless, it's got to be better what they're doing now. So Detroit now, they've got the Yankees starting tonight. Then they go to Texas for 3, kind of an odd series. Thursday, then they're off on Friday, then Saturday and Sunday. Then they come home for 6 with the Athletics and the Phillies. So in those 12 games, Detroit's got to do no worse than 9-3 before the All-Star break. And that's going to be a lot to ask out of this team that can't hit. They can't hold a lead. You know, like I said, those blown leads, I don't blame it all on the pitching staff. A lot of those were when Detroit's down 2-1. And here's the other maddening stat. One last one. Detroit is now 12-32. 12-32 in games, 2-run or 1-run games combined. 12-32. And I sat there and was subjected to Dan Dickerson and Andy Dirks, the television crew today, saying it was all bad luck. It just was bad luck that the run differential is not that bad. Are you kidding me? Bad luck? I looked at my wife. We looked at each other like, who are they trying to kid? Good teams win the close games. Bad teams and bad managed teams lose those close games. A.J. Hinch is losing those because he's trying to be the smartest guy in the room and won't let his players play and won't let his pitchers pitch. It's just absolutely maddening right now. All right. Now, we talked about, in our opinion, the Tigers being sellers. Now, I know you might think this one's crazy, and it probably won't happen, but I think it should. Sooner or later, you just got to chalk one up to it's just not working out. Remember when they drafted Castellanos, and he ended up wanting out? And I'm not saying Torkelson wants out of town. I'm sure he doesn't. He's got no leverage. Well, Torkelson, I know, hit the 2-run opposite field home run yesterday against Houston. He's got double digits, but he's batting 205 or maybe 207. That's not the consistency we need. Now, looking at teams that are still in contention that might be sellers at the trade deadline, here's a team that's only a game and a half out of a wild card spot in the National League, and that's the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, the Tigers and Diamondbacks have been, they've been trade partners for a lot of years. And Detroit's had pretty good success with it. Here's a name that I would go after. An outfielder in AAA right now for the Diamondbacks that I know he'll probably be called up if the Tigers don't trade for him, and that's Drew Jones. Now, if the name sounds familiar, that's right. He's the son of Hall of Famer Andruw Jones. The guy's got speed in the outfield. He's got raw power. He's refined it. He rates pretty high. I think he's like number 14 in their prospect list, only because it's taken a while to get up through the ranks. But here's one that could contribute, I think, on a more consistent basis than what Torkelson's got. He's on the last year of an expiring contract. He had a 1-year contract for $4 million to avoid arbitration. Now, again, I don't think Scott Harris he probably won't do this because of his ego, thinking this is an Avila first-round draft pick. We don't want to give up on him. The Tigers right now have a penchant for not giving up on players thinking that they can turn them around. But how much more rope do you give a guy like Spencer Torkelson? 205. Yeah, he gets hot occasionally, strikes out more often than not. He gets home runs when they're down 4 runs in crunch time. I think this would be a good move for the Tigers to try something different. You know, Torkelson will probably end up with 20 to 23 home runs and bat 200? Is that what the Tigers need? I think now the market's open. The Tigers, in my opinion, are sellers unless something drastically changes. So keep an eye on that. Drew Jones is a good raw talent. Again, he's great in the field. He can patrol center field. He can go to right field, whatever. I think he'd be a good addition to the Tigers. I know it sounds a little far-fetched to get rid of Torkelson, but it's something that, Detroit's got to start trying something different. How much longer do you rely on Spencer Torkelson? I don't know. All right, let's end this one tonight on some fun news. How about some good news? How many of you were around back in 1976? I know I was. I can remember, I watched this game. For those of you that weren't around 50 years ago, I'm sure you read the history books. The Phenom, Mark the Bird Fidrych. He started to really come into his own. This was actually, it's ironic that it was 50 years ago yesterday. He pitched on Monday Night Baseball against the New York Yankees on ABC. Now, back then, for those of you that don't know, Monday Night Baseball was like Monday Night Football. Baseball was still probably the most popular sport in America. And for the Tigers, they were lucky to be on national TV once or twice a year. So this was a showcase. 48,000 people at Old Tiger Stadium on the corner of Michigan and Trumbull. And Mark the Bird Fidrych came up, and he was a one-hit wonder, really a one-year wonder. Injuries, of course, we all know. Injuries curtailed his career very quickly. But one heck of a year he had in 1976. And this was a legendary game. Like I said, I can remember. I'm getting chills even talking about it right now. I remember watching it on a Monday night in my living room. He came in and he just mowed down the Yankees. He gave up an Elrod Hendricks home run in the top of the third, I believe it was. But they're already up 2-0 thanks to the 2-run upper deck bomb from Rusty Staub. Ron LaFleur, I think, had 2 hits, but it was all Mark Fidrych. A one-hitter, 5-1 masterpiece against the New York Yankees, who went on to go into the World, or no, that was, yeah, they did go to the World Series that year. They got swept by the Reds. But that was when Detroit was abysmal. The only bright light they had, really, was Mark the Bird Fidrych that year. Some of their players were just starting to come into their own. That was Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker were rookies that year. Ron LaFleur stole 90-some bases. I don't think he did it that year. But this is all Mark the Bird Fidrych. I can remember it. Again, just, you know the antics. Not a whole lot of people knew about him until this game. He got the national spotlight, and he put on a show in front of the world that night. June 28th, 1976. Ironically enough, with the Tigers in the Bronx starting tonight, it was 50 years ago yesterday that Mark the Bird Fidrych tossed that one-hit complete game winner against the Yankees. And we all know A.J. Hinch wouldn't do it. Melton would have a no-hitter with 70 pitches going into the 9th inning, and he'd probably pull them. Not too many teams get complete games anymore. But that one was something else back then. I remember where I was, front and center on the couch. Couldn't believe that the Tigers were even on Monday Night Baseball. We were able to watch it. 5-1. Tigers with the win over the Yankees. All right, well, we hope you enjoyed that bit. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Tigers Daily here on the Fan Art Network. I want to thank everybody for taking time out to be with us on your iPhones, your computers, laptops, heck, even your television screens. And we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Tigers Daily, as you'll get all of our daily updates on the Tigers, the good stuff and the bad stuff, in our opinions. And leave a comment as well, what you think. And we appreciate that. Until tomorrow, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. So long.